gender, no two people handle grief the exact same way. Although research has shown that men have been known to isolate while women tend to reconnect. Now, the basis of this research and how it relates to real life issues is a conversation that happened in social media sometime. I think that was yesterday, and it caused a lot of drama. I'm going to share the story with you ladies. So, a young girl came online and said that a woman was having a stillbirth in the hospital and her husband was present in the room. And as soon as he realized that it was a stillbirth, he left the room and left her in the hospital by herself. In his defense, according to him, he couldn't bear to watch his wife like that and to watch the fact that his baby died. So the conversation, of course, came on to like, your wife is birthing your child.
Yeah.
Her child died. Your child died. And the first thing that you thought to do was abandon her in the hospital because you couldn't bear to see it. The child that both of you created together. Now, a lot of people came on to talk about how men are wired differently than women are wired. So many wired up in there, and I was thinking, this is a man, not a ceiling fan. But let's get into the conversation, ladies, about handling grief. Are you guys okay with the way men apparently handle grief?
Because let me say that first of all, we grew up in a very different society from the Western world. The way they handle grief and the way we handle grief is very different, and we're wired differently. So men tend to respond to grief in a totally different way from women. You can't catch a man crying; they say he's not man enough. You can't catch him trying to express his emotions emotionally because, you know, he's not, that's not what they were brought up to feel. So yes, they have a different way they respond to grief. It may not be suitable for everybody, but
what do you mean by Western world? And
I mean, you know, I feel like some communities in the Western world actually cry over certain things, actually are there for people. But you would see a man in Nigeria grieving, and then he would walk away from the scene just to be on his own, to try and, you know, accommodate everything before maybe he comes to terms with what just happened. So for that man who, you know, I felt it was a bit too much, because this is something that you're supposed to be there for his wife. Like he said, he walked away. I felt like, oh my God, she's still in labor. She's still in labor pains.
Pushing out a dead baby.
Exactly. It's traumatizing that she has to go through that experience, and then when she comes to her own consciousness, she realizes that her husband is not there, and even while she's pushing, she's seen her husband walk away. It's a crazy feeling, and I don't think it's okay.
Also, what do you think, John? How are you?
For me, there is no right or wrong way to grief. Grief is a natural response to loss. It may not be the best thing to do, but that was your first instinct. So for me, in the guy's defense, that's what came to his mind. Like, it can't just bear the loss, so he left. I feel we shouldn't argue with somebody just because they feel this is the right way they want to grieve. Now, he is wrong, because when you grieving, it's good you be with your loved ones so that they can help you come out of it. But I feel like making it look as if the guy was wrong, he leaving the room is wrong. You don't tell me how to grieve. That is his own way he felt is going to deal with the situation. So I don't see nothing wrong with what the guy did.
Amazing. The thing is, what's really interesting about what you said is that you came to the defense of the man, which is something that is very common. You see a man cheat on his wife, you put say in the man's defense.
I'm not saying
because she was tying wrapper. You see a man throw fisticuffs in public with another man, and then you say in the man's defense he was angry. We don't usually have this defense for women that we always have for men. Now, coming to the factor you said about the foreign world, now, a poll carried out by the NBC, a proper research on white people, or people in America, shows that men are 6 times more possible to leave their spouses in a difficult situation than women do. Now, we always hear things about a woman will leave you when you're down, but research has shown time and time again that it is the man that will most likely leave the spouse in a difficult situation. So are we not making too many excuses for the male gender?
I don't, okay, first of all, I'm going to come like this. environment is important, and how someone grows and is brought up is important. Now, in an environment, because when we try to generalize, there's still some men that react to grief differently. There's still some men that won't walk out of a difficult situation.
We're not talking about those men.
Okay, so
stereotypes are built on the bigger part of the population. When people say Yoruba people like pepper, Yoruba people exist that don't eat pepper. Or people say Yoruba people like pepper, but Mr. Kunle is not one of them. Stereotypes are built on the bigger part of the group.
And which I understand. What I am saying is that as much as these things happen, and as much as they don't have any excuse for doing these things that they're doing, we can blame it on the way they grew up. Because we were not there when they were being wired the way they were wired. We're not there when, and this is not to say that what they're doing is right, but we're not there when they were being wired to be like that. We're not there when they were taught.
Referring to wire. This is a human being.
Yes, but they were taught differently. The way I respond to grief, Joyce, is not the way you'd respond to grief as a lady.
Irrespective of how you were raised, you're an entire adult now. I think that we can hold you responsible for the things that you do.
The thing is that when someone is being brought up in a particular way, it's very hard to change the person. Like she said, we are from different families, and what you see as something of value is not what I see as something of value. We all have different mindsets and different personalities. I feel for the male, for instance, like you said, if that man had stayed behind and started crying, people will still come out to say, why is he crying like a baby? Men don't cry. So I feel people have different, people are different, like different personalities. Because I do something does not mean that is what the whole gender is going to do. Let's not stereotype this thing and say men don't cry or men don't do this one. I feel the way people are being brought up is a very important factor in one's life. Like now, like this, what we just said about this man, let's go back to the labor ward stuff. I feel that is the best way the guy felt he could handle the situation. You, on the other hand, they react differently to it. So the way people are being brought up, it plays a major factor, a major role in one's life.
And I'm going to say that also, when it comes to grief, you cannot tell people how to grieve. You cannot, because I for one, can say that I've experienced grief, experienced loss, and everybody in my family responded to that grief differently. Now, we all grew up in one place, but we all responded differently. Not everybody cried, not everybody, some people just didn't want to show up because
so basically the way you grew up does not even matter.
Yes,
it's an individual
thing. It's an individual thing.
So that's
what I'm saying, that the way you respond, you can't determine how someone responds to grief.
This is not a matter of determination of how someone will respond to grief. This is stating the facts and saying something is white when it is white. You do not walk out of your dead child and your dying wife. Birthing a child is a dying process for a woman. A lot of women die when they give birth to children.
And which I understand.
So, I feel like it is wrong for us to constantly give excuses for very poor behavior. The research shows that if a woman got cancer, it is very possible the husband will leave her for having cancer. You go to hospitals in India where women are going to do surgery. Their husbands don't follow them. But if the man was going to do the surgery, the wife would follow the husband. So don't we get to a point where we need to call a spade a spade? You can't keep saying that this is not how you are wired. You're an adult. You're 46 years old. You should know better. So what did I say for 6 years old?
Okay, see where I'm coming from. I'm saying that, first of all, grief is a very serious matter, and everybody responds to grief differently. There are different stages of grief. There's the denial time, there's the, there's the anger, that you're angry with the whole world, how can this happen to me? There is the acceptance, and there's just the whole, giving a whole lot of, there's a whole process for it. Some people don't even get to some of this process, they just stay in one place. Do you understand? And that place of denial is a very strong one. And I think that many people, when they grieve, they are in denial because they have refused to accept that this thing actually happened to them. And so I feel that irrespective of how people are wired, like you said, we have all grown to a point where we should be able to make certain decisions and say black is black, white is white. But it doesn't happen when you lose someone. Sometimes you really don't know you really don't want to know whether black is black when there is a loss involved. And now I don't know the excuse for that man walking out.
He's a man, that is the excuse.
I don't want to think think that, because there are some people that would be so devastating for them, they wouldn't even be able to move from that place. Just the thought that they heard that their child was a stillbirth, they won't be able to move from that place. While there are others who at that point, we wonder what went wrong, like how can this be happening to me? So first of all, we're trying to analyze from our point of view. We felt like it was a bit too much for him to have walked out of the scene, because this is a very painful thing for just a woman. If you're walking out on her, how do you expect her to feel? Let's talk about how
watching you walk.
Do you understand? You're walking out on her and she's seeing that, she just heard that child is still there, and she still has to go through the pains of pushing the dead child out. Yes, crazy experience. So it's inexcusable that the man walked out of the labor ward and left his family for whatsoever reason. It is inexcusable, but I'm still going to say that people respond to grief differently, because we are not there to conclude and say, these are his reasons and these are not his reasons. So
he gave the reason. He said he didn't look at it. But anyways, let's get some comments, obviously.
Yes. So Charles Osayam says, good morning to yourself, family. Adeze Obiabu says, I'm sorry if I strayed your name.
Oh, sorry, Adeze. Love you.
She says, hey, Adriel, Joyce, and John, good morning to the TSL family. Good morning, Adeze. And then Charles says, it's not about being a man or a woman. It's about who you are and how you were brought up. And remember also that grief differs.
Yeah. Obviously, grief does differ. Like, personally, I am not the person that would run and hug you if you were grieving, but I would not leave you. Because there is a certain feeling of abandonment. And it's one of the greatest. Remember when we had a guest on the show, and she was a psychologist, and she mentioned that one of her patients that was coming in for mental issues said that her issues emanated from when her mother died and their father left them.
That's true.
So we can't really pretend that these things with you do not have an effect on other people. John, I want to hear your thoughts on this. If we're going to keep conditioning people to say that you were brought up this way so you can't change, is that really true? A lot of us have changed from the way we were brought up. So do we still need to keep playing this card of this is how you were brought up when you were a full functioning adult?
The way grief affects you depends on a lot of things, including your religion, your belief, your upbringing, which you can't overlook. But I feel that as an adult, it's good we tend to accept when we are wrong and say we are wrong. Like for that man, I think for me that was his natural, his immediate response, but he was wrong in leaving his wife, being that she has to still bring out the child and she was all by herself. She needed him there. So that is not an excuse. But I feel that, like she said, our upbringing plays a major role in the way we see things. Like, I feel that if maybe the guy, that was the way he felt, it was brought up, but I feel it's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong to leave your wife when she needed you. And again, for me, grief, like they say, is a natural response. That is his own natural response, but that is not an excuse not to do the right thing.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm throwing this question out to people watching us live right now. Do you guys think that men should be more emotional? We're going to read your comments right now. So please drop your comments right now. Facebook, we're live, TSL and Jared TV. Do you guys believe that men should be more emotional? Now, I'll give you guys an example of this trending Big Brother Naija fraud.
Yeah.
Fraud cries. Fraud cries a lot. Fraud cries for anything.
Yeah.
He just cries. The very first time that Fraud cried, it broke the internet. All the men were complaining, all the women were complaining. Now, what kind of guy is this? What kind of dead guy is this? Why is he crying and stuff? Now, firstly, let me finish. Now, I consider this emotional blackmail because the first time he cried, he was asking Esther out. Now, I've had a man cry for me in my front while he was lying.
Wow.
Like, he was crying to deny the thing he was doing, but he was doing it. And after he cried, he continued doing it.
Oh my God, horrible.
So, personally for me, I have a mixed effect when I see men. When I just see a man, I say, fraudster.
Something is wrong.
But should men be more emotional? What do you think, Adriel? Should we move to that point where it is okay for men to cry in front of their wives, where it is okay for men to show that they were hurt by a particular situation?
Let me first say, crying is not a weakness.
Thank
crying is not a weakness. And what happens most times is that people think that when men cry makes them weak, but I think it makes them stronger. Sometimes let out some steam. And the reason why, you know, sometimes it's easier for us ladies to pull through and it's because we cry it out and then we move on. And this is really practical. Sometimes when you cry, you relieve stress, you get over a lot of things. You understand, you calm down. Even when you cry because you're angry, you calm down. And crying is good. But men have been told that crying is a weakness. Yes. Crying is not a weakness, and there's nothing wrong with crying. Now, addressing the issue of
should men be more emotional?
Should men be more emotional?
I want them to be.
Okay, I think men should be more emotional, but because, like we said, they've been told when you're growing up, you can't cry. You're not a man. How can you be crying? You know, a little boy who is just a child. You know, and his boy wants to cry because his sweet fell that the next thing you hear is like 5 people around him and told him, why you crying, man now? Happy a man, why you crying because of sweets? You know, and all that. But I think that men can be more emotional, and it will help them a lot. See, a lot of things that they think is too strong that they have to be manly about. Cry about it.
You feel better.
And then for men who just take advantage of crying, is because they know that she's going to be moved when I cry.
I will not be moved again. Once bitten, twice shy.
You know, especially if it's something the lady has ever experienced, like, oh my God, he cried for me, and then she gets like, oh my God, he cried for me, and all that. So I get the whole fraud thing, like the guy is pretending, but there's some people who actually sincerely cry.
Man, fraud is crying, not real cry. This is not even pretense anymore. Joanne, what do you think? Should men show more? I feel like saying should men be more emotional is wrong, because men are emotional, but should they show more emotion?
In my 20-something years, I've never seen my dad cry. Even when he lost his mom and he lost his brother, like his immediate brother, they were very close. I never saw him cry. And one thing I noticed was that it took him a longer time to heal. Unlike my mom that just let the cry come out and before you know she's okay. But it took my dad time to recover. So I feel for men, it's good to show it out. Crying doesn't mean, like she said, doesn't mean you are weak. When you cry, it gives you that, it makes you come to terms. You accept and then you move on. So you not crying, you are harboring that feelings and then it grows to anger. And from anger, there's a thing like between depression and grief, like you say, you just slide into depression even without knowing it. You become you don't want people around you don't want to come close because you have this bitterness, this anger in you. So I feel for men it's good to show emotions. It's enabled them come to terms. Like my dad, I said if my dad has cried when he lost his other brother, it won't take him that long time to come out of it, because I was even praying for him that he shouldn't fall sick. He was just depressed in a corner, cold. He doesn't want to even eat. And we just kept them
emotional.
But then I think if you let it out, if you talk about it, you cry, then it will move on quickly because it took him time. So I think for men, it's good to show your emotions.
And I can relate to that because I lost my dad a few years ago, and it was a bit bitter. It was a really bitter experience for everybody in the house. But I saw my uncle cry for my father. Yeah. It was really, you know, even us, you know, to us, it was so breaking, but he was like, you know, he has so much to say, he just kept crying and wailing. Okay, so we have a couple of comments here from Charles. He says, my sister, some men are more emotional than men. And leave fraud, because that's really like fraud. He said,
when they experience grief and when they deal with it, it's not just the man that left his wife in the hospital, it's not just the father that refused to cry, it's not just the man that left his wife because she had cancer. Men have been known, according to research, to isolate themselves whenever they are grieving. Final thoughts on that? Is there a way we could move forward? Is it something that we accept? Can we just say, that's how they are, let's deal with it?
I think for the male folk, they should try and talk about it. Like, when something happens and it really hurts you, don't say because I am a man, all people feel like. Just let it out. At least, like you said, the wife will be happier if the husband has come to her, cried on her shoulder, and it's good to show more emotions. Just let it out. Don't say because I am a man. No, let's move on from that stereotype. Because I am a man, I can't cry, I can't talk about it, I can't do this. No, it's good to show more emotions. Like, when I was in a bad group, I came about something that said, when you're grieving, it's good to be with your loved ones, talk about things, share your problems. It helps you move forward from it. So that's like my final thought.
Thank you so much.
Okay, for men, I feel that, you know, grief is very peculiar to everybody, irrespective of how they're wired. And so I feel that, you know, you could be more emotional, more open. One of the quickest ways I think that you can get over grief or be more emotional is have someone you can talk to, that you're probably a fellow guy that won't laugh at you because you broke down to cry, you know, because I know you rather cry in front of a man than cry in front of a lady, but which I don't think is even necessary. You can cry in front of your wife, you can cry in front of your sister, depending on how much you build your relationship. So it's very important. So crying is not a weakness. You should find a way to, you know, heal well, heal properly, because sometimes research begins to show that certain things that were not dealt with well at certain stages of life eventually accumulates to become something else as you grow older in life. So those moments of grief that you didn't deal with, those moments of times where you were really hurt and you didn't talk about it, you locked it up somewhere, and then it became something that, you know, became an emotional defect on you that you just didn't know about. And then when you go and you're trying to get help, they begin to trace it back to, you know, things that happened.
All right, so we'll take our very last comment
yes.
and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, so according to Charles, most men cry in their closets, but my uncle broke down in tears when my dad died because he was like a father to him. So it depends on how close we are to the person.
Yeah, amazing. And this is where we come to the end of this conversation. Now, while I was talking to a lot of people on social media, something was quite common to a lot of men. They said that when you cry in front of a woman, she's going to use it against you in the future. And a lot of them had a lot of instances when it happened to them. So obviously, I'd love to apologize on behalf of some women to a lot of men that have been able to open themselves and get scarred and be forced to go back into the show. Find the most comfortable person it is for you to let it out. It doesn't really have to be your spouse, although I would advise for it to be your partner, because you guys are going to do life together forever. But you can start off with the person that you feel most comfortable with. A lot of men are very comfortable sharing their sexual exploits with their friends. Go further, share your heartbreak, share your disappointments, let them know exactly how you feel. Being friends is so much bigger than hanging out for a drink. Anyways, this is where we come to the end of the show today. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you so much, Daisy. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Charles, for joining us every other day. We'll be here again tomorrow having wonderful conversations. Remember, of course, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, TSL Nigeria TV, and of course, check out our blog, tslnigeria.tv. Like and follow us on all our socials, TSL Nigeria TV. My name is Joyce Chicks. Have yourself a lovely Tuesday.
Stay connected to TSL Nigeria and get updates on the go all day, every day. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on TSL Nigeria TV and join our online family.